Wow, there have been a lot of great looking games released in the past couple months. You got Shadow Warrior 2, Killing Floor 2, Dishonored 2, Titanfall 2, Watch Dogs 2. As much as I'd like to play these, I'm sure they're all pretty good. So I'm gonna play something I'm unsure about, and pretend that my opinion is in any way valid or significant. Yeah, there's a phone here now. Hello?
I heard what you said. You really need to stop putting yourself down. You're so great. Your opinion matters. I promise.
How? Who is this?
It's me, sweetheart.
Don't you recognize me?
This, I don't know if this is some kind of prank, but you're not here anymore.
I'm always here.
The Town of Light is a first-person exploration-based adventure game released in 2016 by Italian developer LKA to mostly positive reviews, despite the usual decries of "not a game" and "game sucks lol." Are the good reviews warranted, or is this a boring walking simulator? Well, here is a review from a guy that has already expressed a positive bias towards games like this one. The Town of Light is a story that is cut and pasted together from the history and accounts of a very real psychiatric hospital for women in Tuscany, Italy, a place that, until 1978, was home to thousands of women, locked in cramped rooms being subjected to all manner of draconian abuse, with no hope of freedom. Practices you'd be hard-pressed to find in today's world, outside some shipping containers I'm privy to. The story follows a girl named Renee, who at the age of 16 was admitted to the asylum for what sounds like a medley of mental health issues, the effects of which are preceded by an intense light. These episodes and her subsequent mistreatment worked to break apart her grasp on reality and her own identity. Though we play as Renee, she is an unreliable narrator, in that she can only comment on things as she perceives them, which could be incorrect, confused, or misremembered. It's difficult to pin down why exactly she's back here, what is clearly a decade or so after the asylum's closure. Is this her ghost? Is this a hallucination? Our understanding is nearly as fractured as Renee's. During our exploration of the asylum, Renee relives several key moments of her time interred there, and where most horror games might take the opportunity of being set in an asylum to indulge in familiar tropes. One of the most interesting things about this story is that, though it is certainly horrific, the asylum is just an asylum, a sad, crumbling building where a lot of people suffered. So, for whatever reason, Renee has returned to the asylum in order to relive her memory. Oh, I guess that's the reason? Did I just correct myself in my own right? An impressive amount of research went into molding this character from the shared experiences of real people. And while there are some emotional moments involving her, what stood out for me was the impression I got that her story was not unique. Trust me, the funny part is coming soon. You just gotta be strong for me. The Town of Light is surely destined to be shuffled amongst other traditional horror games, but it feels incorrect to consider it horror in the same sense as, say, Outlast or The Cat Lady, two games which also, to varying degrees, deal with mental illness. The difference between those two examples and this game is that The Town of Light treats its horror with a documentary-like, matter-of-fact nature that makes no attempt to play up the inherent awfulness of these events. They are scary enough without outright endeavoring to be shocking. There is a moment in this game in which we are made to witness a transorbital lobotomy, and while this is most assuredly an unpleasant thing to watch, the horror of it wasn't played up with editing or music. There is an unflinching and brutal reality to it that is infinitely more terrifying. It literally begins with a medical description of the procedure before we are put in the perspective of the doctor performing it. It was a good 5 minutes after the scene that I realized I was still tensed up in a weird half-fetal cringe. It's a wholly appropriate way to depict this moment. In the wide breadth of ideas covered in this game is the tragedy of these incredibly archaic practices being thought of as the cutting edge of science. In the absence of a cure for mental illness, what was thought of as the best alternative was to take a medical dice roll and see if blasting people with electricity or stabbing their brains would at the very least calm them down. This is horror, but we are allowed to see it for its reality. And there is a real weight to it when you think of the countless other women who were put through similar horrors. I feel like you don't trust me, you don't think that the funny part is coming, but just Just please hang in there. With more and more plot-rich and gameplay-scarce games being released, indie developers are taking the opportunity to tell stories that otherwise might not easily or respectfully fit into the mold of the traditional idea of a video game, as in one with shooting things or solving puzzles. The Town of Light is a game with incredibly intense subject matter concerning sexual abuse involving children, suicide, mental illness, abortion, torture, and I'd imagine it might be tough to have any of these topics be followed or preceded by a goofy jump scare. This game bravely tackles some of the darkest and saddest stuff out there, and though it's not the most cohesive or meaningful or longest of stories, it's a daring one that was a few yards short of being really good. It does get dragged down by some off-putting translations, and mixed with the intentionally unclear narrative, it becomes difficult to remain connected and empathetic with Renee. Because this was based on real events, it would seem silly to complain over the lack of a succinct and satisfying narrative, as these women certainly didn't receive one. Well, I guess I just did. This game is not built by a game developer.
Luca D'Alco
Had worked with Unity before, but never with the intention of making a video game, which seems fitting for a genre so often slighted for not being games at all. But to me, all it shows is an exciting growth I'm sorry, there's some fucking kids outside with a ball. But to me, all it shows is an exciting growth in indie gaming, one that's a little more broad and thoughtful. It's not difficult to see that the Town of Light was not originally intended to be anything more than a tech demo for the Unity engine. A very attractive one at that. But there was something striking about the location that captured the developer's imagination, and that led to researching its history and creating a story around it. Though you could certainly call this game a walking simulator, and many have, there are also remnants of more superfluous elements appropriate in a visual tour, like being able to pick up random bric-a-brac and examine it, for no other reason than because you'd like to take a closer look at it. All it's missing is a cheerful explanation of it. Looks like you found an early electroconvulsive therapy machine, a device used to induce seizures in order to help patients with schizophrenia, depression, or internet addiction if you live in China. Though we've worked out the kinks in present day, this process was highly unregulated and unsafe in Renee's time. I'll bet she has a lot of painful memories of this machine. That is, if she can even remember it. That's right, one of the most common side effects of ECT is memory loss. This is a slow game, as many will point out. By that I mean you'll walk kind of slow. Although if you're anything like me, well, fuck, that sucks, man. But if you are, then this probably won't even be noticeable, as this isn't a game I would want to sprint through. Exploring the asylum was really enjoyable, even if your interaction with it is minimal. It still feels like a real place steeped in history, and I was content taking my time studying it. It's not difficult to surmise where you need to go or what needs to be done to advance the story. Most of the time, Renee will outright say where she would like to go, and if she doesn't, you could always hit the H key and she will remind you. Occasionally, you'll be given the option to choose a reaction to learning certain things about your past. You could react with disbelief, you could accept it, or indulge in her delusions. These options don't actually change the ending, more like they change what the ending means to you. There are a couple moments in the Town of Light that feel like the developers dabbling in interactivity, like wheeling around Renee's doll Christine in a wheelchair, or draining a flooded room of water, or following a creepy hearse, or playing on a swing set, so it certainly requires or is at least open to agency. More so than Virginia, less than Firewatch. But from a gameplay standpoint, this feels like an experiment. It feels like someone testing the water, and I'd like to see their ideas flourish in another game, because one thing they've certainly got down is an atmosphere, and an incredibly well-built environment. Would the addition of puzzles or problem solving enhance this game's narrative about an abused schizophrenic woman trying to remember her life? I don't know, but it would be nice if the gameplay was a little more conceptually consistent and knew what it was doing. I would also like that for my own life. Considering the inherent beauty in this game's location and how faithfully it has been replicated, it's hard not to enjoy the way this game looks. This is, after all, a real place, and one where the events depicted in this game really did occur. There is an intrinsic beauty to ruined buildings, and this asylum is no exception. It's filled with cracked paint, overturned rusty medical equipment, overgrown plants reclaiming the walls, frail-looking planks holding up crumbling bricks. Even the surrounding areas are crafted with the same attention to detail. The trees and plant life look great, and sometimes the sun will pass through the branches, making these really nice rays of light. It's a tech demo. Aside from the hallucinatory flashbacks, there are also some storybook-looking 2D animations. that Renee voices over. These are really well done and only serve to make the dark things Renee went through feel even darker. I've got nothing bad to say about the way this game looks. Well, sometimes door animations are skipped so things just sort of pop open and close, and the draw distance isn't all that great so you've got plants and stuff popping up out of nowhere. But other than that, nothing. The character models are kind of simplistic. Also, the music is really great. It's composed by
Davide Terreni,
and it's just as minimal as the game itself. Aside from a few somber piano tracks, most of the music is replaced by these genuinely unnerving soundscapes with echoing voices and distant sounds of life and music. It's like you're listening to the ghost of the asylum. Really great stuff. I've already added it to my romantic date playlist. The only shortcoming of the Town of Light from an audio-visual standpoint is the voice acting.
Nobody laughs in here. I mean, really laughs. Not those crazy fools who laugh because people say they're mad. I don't know why they laugh out loud. They say I'm mad too, but I never feel like laughing. People used to laugh at me, but they were right, you know?
I don't think it's because the English voice actress is a bad actress, more so that some of the phrasing is strange, and hearing a voice actor capably saying awkwardly translated dialogue can be a little distracting. Jeez! Let me guess, is this some kind of creepy ghost demon thing?
No.
Oh.
No, I just wanted to call and say fuck you, and I hate your guts, and I think you should kill yourself.
Oh. No, yeah. Okay, see, that makes more sense. All right. Well, thanks for.
Yeah, fuck you.
It's been a while since he called. The Town of Light is a surprisingly ambitious concept for a first-time developer. It's a horror story that's much more adult than most horror games are one to be. It's not a pleasant story, that's for sure, but I'm a big fan of sad things. Sad more often than not equals good to me. If a game can inhibit an emotional response in me, then it's won my respect. And this game managed that well enough. It's on the short side and there isn't much to do, but if you have a sort of urban exploration-like appreciation for ruined buildings, it's pretty enjoyable exploring this asylum and learning about its tragic history. The asylum is this game's strongest asset though, and even though I liked it, I am willing to admit that something better could have been done with this setting. And the fact that it was built as a tech demo is still apparent, because it still functions as one, which is probably why it's VR compatible. I hope this studio does more and continues to take risks, because someone has to. I think we just need a non-insulting term to refer to walking simulators or any game that in some degree challenges the concept of a game, like emotive exploration or some bullshit like that. And then developers could slap that in press releases, and then all these people upset that they paid for a spooky house horror game won't be upset when they get Gone Home or The Town of Light. They can just say, oh, it's one of those, I probably won't like it. Just like whenever I look outside, I see all the light and people and think, yeah, I probably won't like that.